Hello, my friends. Today in Reid's Royal Room Rumble, we're going to praise I Am's stream to wish him a big congratulations on getting to 13,000 subscribers. Now, I don't know how this is possible. Perhaps a miracle of some sort? Perhaps. And we get drawn into a discussion that goes from Pascal's wager to random chance to stellar formation, and we end up with questioning all of reality. So go ahead and fire up your rationality, grab a big handful of logic, and let's get ready to rumble.
What they call the physical world is just the local part of reality rather than the universal aspects of reality. But that's how I would frame it. But good point there. Good to see Mark too. Good to see you, man.
Hey! I just came in to wish you a happy 13,000. I think it is. Was it 13,000 that you said? Subscriber?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
appreciate
yeah,
that, man. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. Yeah, and I appreciate you coming here and wish that. Thank you.
yeah, yeah.
I've got a
No
little
worries.
Bible hanging around my neck, right? The writing,
Okay.
the writing is so small that you'd
Uh-huh.
need a
Let
microscope
Mark
to read
Reid
it.
finish. Gosh, you just
No,
cut
no,
him
it's fine.
off.
It's fine. I want to hear about the tiny Bible.
Yeah, you need a microscope to read the bloody writing, mate. It's time for Christmas
Okay.
birthday. Okay. Uncle Doug, the
Wow, that was random. Okay. Well, I mean, what is the smaller the
yeah,
Bible,
well,
the
I
truer it
always
is,
do
or
that sort of stuff.
what's
Sorry,
going on?
brother. God bless you, man. Thank you for not going off.
Why would I go off? It's just a tiny Bible. Hey, P-Town, how you doing? And Bubbles,
Hey,
David,
Mark, good to see you.
Olive Sparrow. Yeah, good to see you,
Mark
Prez.
has patience. You got
Hi,
patience there, Mark.
Mark.
I have to give you credit on that.
Oh, I don't know.
Hi,
I mean,
Mark.
I'm human. I can get frustrated and stuff. Everybody does. Like that's why I don't get like particularly angry at people that get frustrated and angry because we all do at some point or another. So I try to be kind to people with their reactions and give them the benefit of the doubt. I think that's just being, a decent member of society, really. But yeah, I try to be. I can't say that I'm perfect. Absolutely not. So yeah.
Here, man. Yeah, we were just reviewing a stream that you were on with Aaron or Aaron Raw, and it's interesting discussions here. Of course, I disagree with some of the conclusions that Aaron comes up with, and some other people. But yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, I thought Aaron did a good debate though. He reined in a lot of like the frustration that he has, and he's working on it. So I think he's sort of coming a long way. I think that he's because one of the criticisms I would have of him is that he is a bit impatient. I would say that, and I think that there's a lot of people out there that are a bit impatient. But no, he did. He was miles better in his last debate, so he's actually improving a great deal. So watch out. He's actually getting better and better. So yeah, he's got knowledge and a good debate, presentation, which would be
Right.
very scary for you guys. But yeah, I think it's fantastic.
Actually, I'm trying to debate him. I'm
Sorry.
waiting for a modern day. Yeah, I'm waiting for a modern day debate to get back to me.
Oh, okay. Well, like you want to debate me, like you're still waiting for that one too.
Oh,
You know who
Just
canceled that?
asking.
It wasn't me. No,
Oh,
you
who
know who
cancelled it
canceled
then?
that? Yeah,
Who
that was
cancelled it?
James. It wasn't me. I
Oh,
didn't cancel it.
okay.
That was James.
Well, I
He
mean,
didn't let me debate.
I know James as in I have sort of a professional relationship with him, but I don't know James as in he's a good friend of mine or anything. He's not, I don't know him that well. He's a great guy. Don't get me wrong. Great to work with. Great to do stuff with. But I don't know his mind and what he's thinking. So
Well, I
you'd have
mean,
to take
you
that up
got
with him.
he's. I mean, he's buddy with Amy Newman. They work in the same
Um,
place.
Well, yeah, I don't know how buddy they are, kind of thing. I know that because
I
I
mean,
think
they got a little inner circle of atheists, even on their little
what's
Discord.
an inner circle of atheists? Are you talking about inner
Well, like
circle atheists?
all the mods on modern day debate are like atheists, and so
I
on the
Well,
think
Discord.
James says he's a
J-
Christian, right?
James is a
Well, no,
Christian.
no, he's only a Christian in the way like as in a gamble. So like he only takes up the
What?
argument if if there's a God, I'm just gonna lean towards there's a God, just in case so I don't go to hell. Not that he actually believes it.
I don't think that's the
Never
case.
heard
I
him
don't.
say that.
Yeah, he's argued for Pascal's wager before. I've heard a debate for Pascal's wager, but that
Yeah,
doesn't mean.
that's the only one he's
Well,
ever done. That's the
that
only.
is an argument for God. If you hear somebody make an
No,
argument,
no,
Bubbles. No, let
no.
me finish. Let me finish. If you hear
Yeah.
somebody make an argument, don't just assume that's the only argument that they're relying on. That's the entire crux of their discussion, kind of thing.
Well, no, it's because no true Christian would ever make such an argument because Christians aren't
Oh, no true
gamblers.
Christian. Okay, so
yeah,
no
because they're
true
not gamblers.
Scotsman.
It's based upon faith. That's not based upon faith. That's based upon a gamble.
Have you heard
Mark,
of what
I'm actually glad.
a no true Scotsman fallacy is, Bubbles?
Well, it doesn't apply when you literally using the Pascal's wager. You're literally just a gamble.
I've never seen that in philosophy before. That no true Scotsman fallacy doesn't apply to Pascal's wager. I've never seen that.
No,
one.
I'm saying James is only using the Pascal wager to justify his Christianity. So he's only gambling.
No, that's one
of
that's one.
He has no
argument.
faith. He has zero faith. It's not based upon faith. It's based upon a gamble.
I don't think you know James very well. He's offered prayers to me and to other people and offered to pray with them and stuff. So I don't think you're right, Bubbles. I think you're making hasty generalizations about the man that just are not accurate.
I have never seen this man pray.
Was Pascal a Christian?
Yes.
Was Pascal from Pascal's wager? Was he a Christian?
Yes.
So your argument is that Pascal's wager, he wasn't a true Christian because he used Pascal's wager, presumably.
No, I'm saying no true Christian would base their faith on a gamble. They would base it on believing in God, not that they're gambling that there is a God, just because they don't want to go to hell.
So your argument is that Pascal, whose Pascal's wager comes from, wasn't a true Christian.
No, I'm saying using Pascal wager as your reason as to why you quote unquote believe in God isn't really a faith-based system. It's just a gamble-based system.
Well, the problem
was Pascal a true Christian?
It's like saying I believe in aliens because there might be a chance that those aliens might kill me if they do exist.
The problem is that a lot of notable Christians have used Pascal wager, including probably pretty recently, within the last half a year or so. William Lane Craig used the same argument for pragmatic and sort of this safety thing of using Christianity because there is no downside, which is Pascal's wager. So you would have to argue that, say, William Lane Craig isn't a Christian either.
But William Lane Craig has been called out on that. Like that's not a way to get Christians.
I think it's a bad argument. But I still think that William Lane Craig is a Christian. I'd see the problem that you're having is you're doing the no true Scotsman. So no true Scotsman basically says, you sort of say, hey, no Scotsman eats porridge, and somebody else points out, hey, my cousin Angus is a Scotsman and he eats porridge.
Well, look,
and they say, hold on a second, let me finish.
Mm-hmm.
And then the first person says, well, no true Scotsman eats porridge. That's essentially what you're doing. You've got a Christian that does use Pascal's wager. You're saying no true Christian uses Pascal's wager. It's basically excluding somebody because of an incidental thing that they do from what they have designated to be. It is a logical fallacy.
I'm excluding him because he doesn't actually believe. Same James could is a Christian is like saying I'm a Christian. So I believe Jesus existed, but am I a Christian? Absolutely not. No Christian would classify me as a Christian.
How are you going to demonstrate what the man believes?
Because he only uses a Pascal wager as his justification. The Pascal wager is just a gamble.
No, wait.
It has nothing to do with belief or faith.
You acknowledged that was not the only argument he's used. You acknowledged that before. You said, yes, but no true Christian would use Pascal's wager. But I pointed out he used other arguments, and you said because he uses this specific one, but he does use other arguments for it. So I don't know where you're getting that he only uses Pascal's wager.
I have never seen him use any other argument besides the Pascal's wager.
That doesn't mean he doesn't. It just means you haven't seen it.
Well, as far as the evidence stands, that's all he has used.
Yeah, just because you haven't seen something doesn't mean it doesn't happen, Bubbles.
No Christian would use the Pascal's wager.
Hey, let's quote Mark on that one. Sorry, is my microphone working? Who are we talking about now? Who's only used Pascal's wager?
James
Let's move on.
Yeah, I don't think it's really.
He says he's a Christian. Let's just move on.
Yeah, and I'm a Christian
too. Is that okay, Bubble?
Do you believe I'm a Christian?
Get him when you can go get him when you see him. Do you call yourself a Christian, Bubble?
Okay, I believe in Jesus. Do you think I'm really a Christian?
Do you call yourself a Christian?
I call myself a Christian, sure.
Sure, I believe that you're a Christian.
I don't believe it. Of course I'm not.
Oh God!
So you call yourself a Christian? You use Pascal's
so you don't
wager.
call yourself a Christian. So
your argument is that no Christian uses Pascal's wager. You just refuted yourself in the most monumental way possible.
No, I'm just making fun of the silliness that anybody who identifies as a Christian is automatically a Christian.
But you just identified as a Christian, and you said that no Christian would use Pascal's wager. Yet you're saying you're a Christian that uses Pascal's wager. You are stupid. You are really, really.
Oh, well, there's
really
no need for
stupid.
insults. I mean,
I'm not sure what he's saying.
I think the argument is stupid. Yeah, I think the argument.
If the guy wants to just say that he's a Christian and he doesn't want to go further than that because he doesn't want to sacrifice his integrity, trying to be have an unbiased platform, I think it's okay, as long as he keeps on bringing people like Mark and I to go head to head with each other. I'm okay with it.
Sure, I'd be happy to. It is good to see you, P-Town. I felt bad that people were sort of picking on you the other day, and I kind of stood up for you a little bit. Yeah, on Rage's stream, I thought that was a bit. I don't think you're dishonest. I don't think you're trying to have I don't think any of the stuff that was saying. I think you're wrong, and you know that. You know that. I think you're wrong, but I'm not. I don't buy into things of this person's just doing this because of this reason. I think I try to take people at their word. So if you say that you're telling genuine stories about your life and things like that. I will take you at your word. And if somebody's lying to me and tricking me, then that reflects on them, not me. So, I did feel like that was pretty crappy, and I did say so. But, these things happen, I guess.
It is.
Yeah, it is what it is. I hope you're okay and you're well. You sound a bit tired, so I wish you the best, P-Town. I really do.
I'm doing fine. Yeah,
it was a big day for me in this stream. Like I that was the first time I'd met Aaron Ra, and it was really good. It was really exciting to meet him. He had a lot of good points. So I thought, he was a nice guy, actually.
I actually enjoyed the little bit that we had back and forth, and I think on Friday, I'm doing a one-on-one with him. So I'm not sure what platform that'll be on or whatever, but. Should be interesting.
Yeah, that's cool.
We'll see where that goes. I think he's probably going to try and teach me stuff about evolution, which I probably need to get.
He does know a lot about biology. Like, love him or hate him, he certainly does know about biology, cladistics, and things like that. Like, he's very knowledgeable about it. So, yeah, that should be.
I'm actually glad you're here, because the next part in this stream, what I was really just trying to get at, and it's actually difficult to get to. If I'm trying to, I don't know, maybe you would know the word, but I'm just trying to deduce this argument, and I think you would be an example. I don't want to speak for you, but trying to deduce the whole solar eclipse thing to being either God did it or God did not do it.
Well,
I mean, you might be an example of.
Yeah.
Could we deduce it to that?
Well, do you
if
mean
you and I were
construct
to
an
discuss.
argument, like put together a number of premises and a conclusion, like a syllogism kind of thing? Is that what you're trying to do?
Well,
Or
can we narrow it down to either God made that or God did not make that?
well, that's a true dichotomy. One of those is absolutely true, correct? Like either
Okay.
God did do that or he did not do that. That is a true dichotomy. It has to fall into one or the other. The problem is
Okay.
of getting the evidence that one of those is true. You sort of have to have um, sort of premises that people will agree with that lead rationally to the one conclusion that God did do it. Um, I don't see how you're going to do that, but sure. I mean, I can try and help with the
Well,
steel man your position kind of thing.
well, in the past, I think, and I could bet you we could go back when I just tried to deduce it into God did it versus God did not do it. I don't
Uh-huh.
even think we got that far when you and I talked, because the whole premise, just the fact that we're
Um,
presupposing that God into the equation,
no, I
we
think I
didn't.
think I think that the sticking point that we had was the dichotomy you were trying to set up was either it naturally formed or God did it, and that's not a true dichotomy, right? Because
Okay.
there are other options I could present that fall outside of those two categories. So if I say, hey, what's something ludicrous? Extra dimensional aliens could have done it. It's not natural, and also God didn't do it. So that makes that particular one a false dilemma because there is an option that is outside those two prongs of false dichotomy, because there's something that falls outside of the two prongs of the dichotomy. So I think that was the sticking point that we had.
Okay. Well, we can move on to that, because I think what ultimately what I want to get to is I stand on the side of God did that. It's
Mm-hmm.
precise, and what I want to point out is what you believe in is chance and randomness.
Well,
But I think that
sorry.
you would put a defense against that. So I guess my point in bringing this up is typically, if I feel like from my end, if I can get you to agree to what you're defending and what you're actually defending, instead of, you know, saying that, oh no, there's other options out there, like aliens put the moon there. But if we can actually deduce it to what we're actually talking about, I think that my argument is better than yours. All right. Sorry,
Well,
I'll
I
let you
don't.
talk.
Yeah, I don't.
Can I rudely interrupt?
Yeah, sure,
Can I
Dave. No
rudely
worries.
interrupt? Just on chance and randomness. That's not. Once you have laws of the universe, nothing is chance and nothing is random. Everything conforms to the laws of the universe. That's all I want to say. So it's not chance and it's not random.
Yeah,
So
I
like
do
a
kind of
fatalist?
agree.
That would be like a fatalist, though.
No,
So then,
determinist. It's deterministic,
so you would
not
both.
fatalistic.
So that's my point. Is I think if Aaron Ra would at least acknowledge that, I can't even get you, Mark. You know, and I don't know how to say this politely. Honestly, I
Mm-hmm.
can't get you to actually agree on what we're arguing about.
What do you mean?
Because I believe that I hold the belief that God made that. I believe in
Right.
precision. I believe in a creator. You believe in chance and randomness, but you're saying you don't believe in chance and randomness. So what is it that you believe in?
Well, I think the physical laws of the universe, and when we say chance and random, it depends what we're talking about. So, for instance, something truly random, which is the decay of atoms in radioactive material, for instance, it's completely random which atoms decay and which do not. They decay at a constant rate, but it is random. And in quantum mechanics, there are things that are absolutely random, completely arbitrary, and have no causal effect for them. But when we're talking about chance in the physical world, like physics and things, usually we're talking about a series of causal relationships that we just can't describe. For instance, if you throw a rock down a hill, where it bounces seems like chance, it seems like pure randomness. but it really isn't. If you could duplicate all of the, all of the physical properties of that rock hitting exactly the same place, it would bounce in exactly the same way. That these physical laws of the universe are deterministic. So what determines them is a series of physical parameters that we may not be able to know about. So then we call it chance or randomness, but that isn't necessarily the case.
So can I just
Well,
quote
just
you?
I
It's
just wanna
something
I
that
just
you
wanna I just
call
wanna I just
chance or
wanna address
randomness.
no. I just want to address your other issue of precision, because the sun and the moon, when there's an eclipse, the moon sort of covering the sun is not precise, and it varies because the distance to the sun varies on the elliptical orbit of the Earth. Um, so sometimes it does cover the sun, sometimes it doesn't, depending on the eclipse. That is a lack of precision, not precision. So I don't see the precision that you are claiming when you're sort of saying, hey, the moon covers the sun precisely, because it doesn't.
Okay, let's go back to your position, and then
Sure.
we can, if it's okay, and then we can cover how precise God made it and didn't make it afterwards.
Okay, sure.
Ultimately, after all the things that you just said, as far as I can tell, you described, quote unquote, what we ultimately call chance and randomness.
Mm-hmm.
So why can't I deduce this argument into I believe in God and you believe in chance and randomness? You're going to say that's not necessarily true, but it is what we call the chance and randomness.
No,
Why are you
because
ashamed of what you believe in, Mark?
Well, no, because I think it's the physical deterministic laws of physics causing
That
things
we
to
can't yet
happen one after
explain.
another. Well,
That we can't yet explain that we
we can
call chance and
explain.
randomness.
Well, we
I
can
mean,
explain, but it's sort of like weather patterns, for instance. They're inherently chaotic, right? They're inherently have this chaos about them, sort of as random patterns kind of do. But there is also a order to them. There is patterns that come from even random. That's what chaos theory is all about. It's all about the patterns that come from random chance or chaotic patterns. Um, so just because something is chaotic, i.e., there's so many parameters that we can't replicate it, or we can't, sort of examine every single parameter, doesn't mean it is arbitrary. I.e., there's nothing causal that's causing it. It's just an arbitrary thing that happens, and that's the difference. So when you say all of this came by random chance, in a sense you are correct, but in another sense, it is the natural laws of the universe just doing what they do. That on the so where I think the moon came from, that the when the accretion disks formed on the sort of dust and other stuff from multiple supernovae events ages ago, and they collected into sort of bigger and bigger balls, because that's how gravity causes things to shape themselves just due to the nature of gravity. There was what we think is there was a sort of rogue element, a planetoid called Theia, that hit the Earth and smacked the chunk off. And as that got captured in the larger Earth orbit, it became the moon, because gravity will still compress everything into a ball. The reason why it's in the position that it's in is just because of the way gravity acts upon large objects in space that don't have friction or anything else to stop them. This is called spontaneous synchronicity, and it basically that some spontaneous synchronicity shows that even things that are completely chaotic can line up and become synchronous, just due to the nature of physics. It isn't chance that they become synchronous. It is the actions of physics working upon them. And there's a great clip you can find with metronomes, and they start the metronomes on this hanging platform in random ways. They're just randomly started. And every single time, those metronomes will sync up and start working in unison. And it's just a natural property of the universe. There's nothing going down and making them do this. It's just the natural laws and the way that these things sync up.
Okay, so you believe that the sun and the moon are almost the same size from our vantage point,
Sometimes.
because in the same way that metronomes will sync up, or say violins will sync up, or
Partly, yeah. So the Earth is captured by the
not because of
sun's
chance.
gravity.
So,
Not really because of chance. It's because the Earth's captured by the sun's gravity, and that makes an elliptical orbit, basically. So an orbit that isn't completely round. It actually goes. Is that Joel Olstein? Wow, that's some teeth on him. It actually goes round in an oval shape. Now, this oval shape means that sometimes the Earth is closer to the sun, sometimes the Earth is a bit further away as it goes around the sun, an elliptical orbit. So sometimes when the moon goes over the sun in an eclipse, it covers the entire sun, and we go, oh, look, it's exactly the right size to cover the sun. Sometimes
it's a total eclipse, yes.
Right, total eclipse. Yeah. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes that because we are
sometimes
a bit further away. Sorry?
Yeah. I think it's called an annual eclipse. Then we'll see kind of like a ring of fire.
Yeah, and annual eclipse, yeah. So sometimes we're further away, so it looks smaller, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So all of this is just the natural laws working upon bodies in motion in our solar system. There's nothing about it that I see that a god would have to come down and make it happen.
Well, let's use your.
Well, pendulum. So I'll tell you what I believe in.
Wait, Peter. Let's use your pendulum example. Those were set up.
Pendulum. Oh, the metronomes.
Yeah, the metronome. The metronome example. Those were set up. For those who don't know, it's basically they have like multiple metronomes on this 2x4, which is suspended by some sort of soda cans. But this took setting up. This was set up. So you're appealing, even in your example, you're appealing to intelligence.
No, I'm not, because that was set up.
You are,
because Bubbles. If I could just speak, mate. They were set up in a random way. They were set up to be arbitrary. So this is what I'm trying to say to. If I just finished, this is what I'm trying to say to P-Town. Even if things are arbitrary and they're set up with the intention of making them arbitrary, which P-Town is saying that God did not do, he set up things to be ordered. Even if they are arbitrary, they turn into order. And that's what spontaneous synchronicity is. And God doesn't come down and change what the metronomes are doing. It is just a property of our natural world. That's the whole point.
I think you're
the reason they're synchronizing is because of the wobble at their base. So it's inevitable because of the setup. The only reason they're synchronizing is because of the setup.
But they're natural. That's natural properties of the universe. That's all.
No, so you're just begging the question: who set up the universe?
No, it's got nothing to do with who set it up. I mean, if we want to try to like go around and find metronomes that have started on a swinging bass naturally, we're not going to be able to do that. That's the thing, Bubbles.
Exactly.
You're out in the weeds again. Yeah, okay. That makes no sense to me. So if science was left to Bubbles, we would go around looking for metronomes that have started spontaneously on a swinging bass for some reason. Thanks, Bubbles. Always.
Nobody's saying God is like currently moving.
Bubbles, it's just easier. If we set them up ourselves, it's just easier. We could go around the world and find natural metronomes. It's just easier if we do it ourselves, and the result is exactly the same.
No, you're missing the point. So his argument is we don't see any design, but then he gives an example in which a design is required from the very beginning, not the after effect. Sure, the
It's
after
not
effect,
required. It's not
the after
required.
effect,
It's just easier.
no, the
It's
after
not
effect
required.
is natural, yeah.
The
But
results, the results, are exactly, the results are exactly the same. It's not required. We could go around the earth and find the metronomes, the natural metronomes that we need.
I'm not gonna fight you, David. I'm not gonna fight you. You win.
I'm sorry. Did the middle of my sentence interrupt the fucking start of yours? Shut the fuck up.
Cheers, Mike.
Chill,
We could go
chill.
around.
It's okay, Wadhat, chill. Just
Sorry.
that's okay, man. Like, I understand it's frustrating. Just take a breath and keep going.
Yeah. Right. We could go around the world and find natural metronomes that do exactly the same thing. It's just easier, given what we're trying to get out of the experiment. It's just easier to set up our own. It's
You guys are
just
missing
easier.
it big time. I mean,
David, the point is, it only happens if you like set it up this way. That's what you're missing.
No,
No.
it doesn't only happen. That's what I've just said. You could go around the world and find natural metronomes that do exactly the same thing. It doesn't only happen if you set it up this way. It's just easier to do so.
What is a
Given what
metronome?
we're trying to-
so I got a question for you, Mark. What are the two
Sure.
metronomes in this case?
The two
Just draw a bit of a
metronomes.
picture.
Well, it's actually more than two, because you've got the action
Sure,
of the Earth's gravity on the moon. You've got the action of the moon's gravity on the Earth. You've got the action of the sun on both the moon and the Earth. The amount of gravity is, sort of on the sun from the Earth and the moon is negligible, so that probably wouldn't be a factor.
So take gravity out. There's three, right? The sun, the
what do you
moon,
mean
and the Earth,
take
right?
gravity out? How would it work if you took gravity out? I don't understand.
Well, I was talking besides the mechanism. What are the three properties, the three metronomes? I mean, gravity's acting on. I was just saying, you're saying there's three things, physical things going on here, right? Or three materialistic things: the sun, the moon, and the Earth.
Sure, yeah. I mean, those are the bodies that are sort of exerting sort of a physical attraction to one another, as gravity will tend to do. I do have to ask, and I'm sorry if this sounds like you do believe in gravity, don't you? You're not a flat earther or something that doesn't believe in gravity or something like that.
Of course, I'm not a flat earther.
Okay.
Sure.
It's just
my
why
point
would
is I think you're missing this point
right. Right.
Okay. The alignment isn't between the sun, the moon, and the Earth. The alignment is between the sun, the moon, and your brain, Mark. That's the alignment.
But I'm on Earth.
The sun and the moon in your eyeballs. That's the alignment that I'm talking about. So
okay, that's really
God
weird.
made a light for the day, a light for the night, and these two things just so happen to be about the same size from our vantage point. Okay, the alignment goes from the sun, the moon, through your eyes into your brain, so you can see that God clearly made this. It's real simple.
I don't think that's what's happening. I think that's a sort of post hoc explanation of what is clearly just light bouncing off the moon. Like, the light doesn't make any light, and you do get nights that are, you've got a moon that's entirely dark. You have moonless.
The moon's flat.
Moon's flat. Yeah, that's another explanation I heartily do not endorse, but sure. Look, praise. You can parody like them all you want. I've heard weirder stuff out of sort of flat earthers and sort of moon conspiracists. It's Poe's law all over again. Yeah. So I mean, you say that, but we don't see any evidence for what you're claiming. There's a lot of evidence of how planetary bodies form when accretion disks happen and things like that. But we don't see this precision that you're talking about. Like I said, sometimes there's no moon. Sometimes the moon appears bigger than the sun. Sometimes the moon appears smaller than the sun, and that isn't the moon changing size. It's just our position in relation to the sun and the moon so the sun rather. That's not what I would expect to see if a god was demonstrating that the moon is the same size as the sun. If a omnipotent, all powerful being was demonstrating the moon is the size of the sun, I would expect it to remain the same size as the sun and not vary at all.
Praise, I don't want to take up your whole show because Mark and I, we can go all day on this.
Well, I mean,
Yeah,
I'm simply responding. So that's okay.
That was a good
Yeah.
point. And answer that point. Answer that point.
David.
You don't have to take up the whole show. Just
No,
answer
he doesn't
that point.
have to. It's fine. If
Well, I
T-Town
was
wants
asking
to
for
take a break,
permission
that's fine.
first. I was asking for permission first.
All right.
Basically, I don't want to.
Well, I don't want to make this all about sort of an argument if it's Praise's 13,000 subscriber stream, because that's sort of supposed to be a celebration.
Oh no, it's an open stream, you guys. Yeah,
well, you know,
I want it free flowing anyway. I like these discussions, but I would come from a different angle, more of a philosophical angle, and say that everything we see in physical reality, it is a law, or it runs by the laws of logic. Basically, everything is it's synchronized, if you want to say that's the word. If it's synchronized in the laws of thought, it means you can't see up going down. You don't see things contradict each other. Therefore, I think reality is constructed in a logical way, and I think we can get maybe better discussions there instead of like arguing what I call the particular parts of reality rather than like the fundamental parts of reality. The metaphysics of reality, in other words.
Yeah, I don't.
Congrats.
Well, I don't mind it. Go ahead, Wildheart. Sorry.
Yeah, I just want to say congrats, Praise and Olive and Sparrow, by the way, on the 13,000 subs. That is brilliant.
Yeah, congratulations, Sparrow and Olive. You guys contribute a lot to this stream, so I know
absolutely
you work hard on it too.
Regarding the precision argument, Mark, look, so there, I think, going off my memory here, I think there's two types of eclipses. I think we covered that, but one of them you see, I believe what they call, it's kind of like the ring of fire.
Yes.
It looks like a crown in the sky. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then when it's a total eclipse, you have the corona. Okay. Both are very significant in science when it comes for us to learn about, I can't remember off the top of my head, but the different properties that we can see in those lights helps us learn the different properties of other things in the universe that we, observe through telescopes and, the different types of telescopes. There's a lot of things that we can learn from both of those. And these are things that the Bible talks about. And so in the same, to me, I think it's poetic because, and I even think that it uses the moon in the Psalm somewhere. And I hold a peculiar belief that it's actually foretelling the way that Jesus foretells or foreshadows in Scripture in the Old Testament. It's in a way, it's kind of like the moon.
No, I don't know.
It's just a shadow. You can see it's just a shadow on the earth, but ultimately, it's so you can see it.
Yeah, so I don't know. The whole point that I'm sort of making is that the moon, when you see it, like it's the corona around the sun in a total eclipse that you're seeing. It's not technically the sun itself; it's the light from around the sun. And when it's sort of an annular eclipse, there's more of that light showing, so it looks smaller, and so it's not precise in any way. And then you get the partial eclipse, which doesn't even cover the entire sun at all. It only like takes a slice off of the side of the sun kind of thing. Like it's not precise in the slightest. I don't like, just because we can learn from something gives no evidence that there's a God. I mean, we can learn a lot from the bacteria found in the feces of cows. It doesn't mean that God put it there so we could learn from it. I think that's a spurious argument that sort of just assumes that it's there to learn from. There's nothing suggesting that God put anything there for us to learn from by just the fact we can learn from it. What's that called? Affirming the consequent is what you're doing. You're basically saying, if there is a God, there will be things to learn from. There are things to learn from, therefore God. That is affirming the consequent. It's a logical fallacy because you can do that with literally anything. You can do that with fairies. Like if fairies are real, they would put things there that we could learn from. There's things to learn from, therefore fairies. That's essentially what you're doing, P-Town.
Well, I have a question for you, Mark. Like,
yeah,
what? See, in like your naturalistic, paradigm of your understanding, your worldview, what would enable the universe to even be discovered? How do you like to me it's almost like a prescriptive, like something that's prescriptive. Like, what prescribes you, like anyone even knowing something about the universe?
well, empiricism, really. The thing is that while we do have access to senses, and I think all of us would acknowledge that our senses exist and that we rely on them to present things about the universe around us. I don't know anyone that goes through life sort of saying, hey, my senses are not a reflection of what the real universe is. So we have to rely on those senses, because when we start to get into things like, well, I'm going to rely on a mental construct that doesn't agree with my senses, they get into all kinds of trouble with their reality not matching the reality presented by their senses. It basically would describe somebody delusional. So in a way, I'm not specifically naturalistic, and I'll explain why. Because naturalism precludes anything supernatural, which I don't necessarily. I don't believe in anything supernatural because nothing supernatural has been demonstrated to me. However, naturalism precludes that entirely. It says, no, I'm not even going to consider it. It's completely out of,
okay. Well,
no, but I do adhere to empiricism, that in order to tell anything about our reality, we have to use our senses to do so. I would agree with that.
Okay, so I appreciate that response. What I'm getting more as, like, how do you know that the universe isn't deceptive? And what if there's something like that's going beyond this, behind the scenes, that you don't know about, and is tricking your senses? We know this, in like doppelgangers. We can go into
Sure.
like several different things out there. Like, our senses aren't. I mean, they are reliable. It seems to be. But what if we're not even? What if we're not even close? What if it's zero accuracy because the universe is deceptive?
Well, I mean, it's interesting question, because you're getting into solipsism. How do you know that anything around you is real at all? How do you, if your senses are just electrical signals
Yeah,
or some kind of
that
sort of
is a good
projection in
question.
your mind? How do you know that anything is real? And I do have to
That's right.
presuppose that my senses are correct for only a given level of accuracy. I know they can be fooled.
Okay.
I know they can be incorrect. But if you don't think that our senses are real, Praise, then why are you relying on me using my senses in order to answer you?
Well,
I believe
I'm
we're
not even.
living. Craig, can I just
Go
1
ahead.
second?
Sure.
Just 1 second. I believe we're living in a simulation run by the Lord Jesus Christ. That's what I believe, because everything is electromagnetism. Everything, whole atoms, everything. There's no evidence at all that there's anything tangible in an atom. No evidence except for a bit of weight they detect from things they can't see, like quarks, which could be electromagnetic pushing and pulling.
Well, we do observe quarks and other sort of subatomic particles. We
Through
observe them.
their weight, through their electromagnetic pushing and pulling on each other, which could appear as weight.
Well,
It
it's
might not
not.
be weight at all.
So the pushing and pulling is quantum entanglement that you're sort of describing. That's not just electromagnetic. There's other sort of things that work there. They're called spooky interactions at a distance kind of thing, where you turn one and the other one turns kind of thing. They're not electromagnetic. Electromagnetic is protons and electrons. They're a lot
Yeah, I know what
bigger
you
than these
mean, but
quarks.
everything is some sort of electron. There's no evidence at all, no, like 100% guaranteed evidence that there's anything, any tangible matter in an atom at all, which is
Sure there
interesting.
is. Sure there is. You ever seen an atom
Yeah,
bomb?
but you're talking about the quarks, right?
You ever seen an atom bomb?
Yeah, that's a release of energy. Their energy.
And what releases that
They're
energy?
literally just energy. There's no evidence at all that there's any tangible matter in an atom. Anyone can look this up. There's no real evidence. They can't see quarks. They can just detect weight, right?
So in a neutron bomb, what releases all that energy?
Well, it's obviously the energy that's in the atoms, but the atom, that just proves my point. That atoms are energy, mate. They're just mostly energy. There's no evidence at all, no 100% scientific fact evidence that there is anything tangible in an atom. No tangible matter, I mean. And that is fact. And they don't have any solid evidence. They have evidence of weight. They have the appearance of weight, right? Could be the appearance of weight. But like I say, I believe we're living in a simulation run by the Lord Jesus Christ, and that's the way I look at it anyway.
Okay. Well, I mean, an atom bomb is when they split an atom. That's when the energy gets released, kind of thing. So it's that energy that you're seeing that blows stuff up in such a destructive way. So the amount of energy released is significant. So there's definitely something, within an atom. There's definitely no question. When they use sort of the Large Hadron Collider to accelerate subatomic particles and then make them strike one another, we can actually observe these subatomic particles sort of coming off of them, and that's how we've done most of our research into them.
Gold molecules. You can actually collide subatomic particles together and create gold that's not being created out of nothing. It's being created out of the energy that was already there.
Well, no, they're not creating gold, mate. That's not what they're doing.
Well, I think they did once. I think they collided atoms together and they created gold particles for like a nanosecond or however small amount of time. I think if you look it up, they did. But it wasn't that they said they created it out of nothing, but they didn't actually create it out of nothing. They created it out of the energy that was already there. Well, so it wasn't out of nothing.
Well, they may not be talking about sort of the philosophical nothing as in no thing, because as far as we're aware, nothing can't exist, because as soon as something exists, it is something. So
time, space, matter, yes.
Well, anything, like anything at all. If you're talking philosophically, if something exists, it can't be nothing because it exists, and the whole concept of nothing is that it doesn't exist. So that's sort of a paradox of nothing. You can't have nothing because having nothing is still having something.
You are absolutely 100% spot on that.
When they talk about nothing, they may be talking about a quantum field, that there is no matter or no energy there, but there is quantum particles.
That no one has a workable theory of quantum gravity. They have many of them, but no one has a workable theory. So unless they can make a workable theory of quantum gravity, then they can't go down that road, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, I get what you mean, but as far as the CERN experiments are, we have observed these subatomic particles, is what I'm getting at. Like whether or not they could create gold out of thin air, or whether gold comes out of these subatomic particles, I don't know, but they definitely have observed multiple different quarks, assign them multiple different properties, and sort of work towards how they interact with one another in sort of a wide range of experiments, kind of thing.
Yeah, like organic chemistry, when molecules exchange each other and all sorts of weird things.
Well, yeah, I mean, a lot of the interactions are very strange, but I sort of forgot what we were on. We were kind of on solipsism and the whole idea whether you could tell whether things are true.
Praise. Okay,
no, that's okay, because no, it's fine, Jason, because it ties in with, if Jesus is running a simulation kind of thing. The problem with that is it's kind of, if anybody, not just Jesus, if Zeus, if some aliens are running a simulation, the only evidence we can seem to gather at the moment is from the simulation. So there's no way to demonstrate that we are in fact in a simulation. To us, it looks identical to reality. So
I would probably disagree with that, but
Well, it's an interesting question that it's sort
Well,
of
let's hear your side then, Grace.
So,
okay.
yeah, everything's run or generated off of information. We call it quantum information, and it's how what you quant or what you would define as information, how you would express information. So, information to me is a medium of consciousness. I don't. It's immaterial. I mean, it might be expressed through a medium. That's fine. I'm not saying, but a lot of times, like when people get mixed up, they think the medium itself is the information. No, information is immaterial. It's an immaterial code, and we see this embedded in the universe. In fact, the majority viewpoint is. I'm going to try to get citations for this. I actually had a citation at one time because with Gavin, I was helping him out with this.
Okay.
That the majority position right now in physics is that the universe is emergent from quantum information. And so if it's emergent from that quantum information, then I would say there's good evidence that it's a simulation, and also that the simulation is fundamentally mind, or the source of this simulation would be mind or some type of intelligence.
I don't think it's emergent. It might be emergent from quantum fields, but I don't think that's the same as quantum information. I would like to see that citation on that, to be honest with you. I think that we kind of describe it in sort of measures, but it also means it depends what you mean by information. And this is where I'll sort of,
Right.
John Maddox had this idea of information is anything that told you anything about anything at all. So, the bursts from a quasar could be information, and the all of these naturally occurring things he described as information. I don't think that's what I would describe as just natural properties as information. You can get information from them, but that doesn't mean that the natural properties are in and of themselves information. I think that that's sort of a mislabeling of what information is. And it'd be interesting to see what the physicists say about it, but I don't think I would describe it like that.
Yeah, here's a paper right here from Springer.
Okay.
So I'm probably wrong about this, but isn't information like transferred from one mind to another? Like you can get information from anything, from the
Right, it's
sun.
information passed from one mind to another.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Data, but well, here's a paper right here: a universe built or off information or of information. So it's I mean, also, Dr. Ben Gates, he was talking with Neil deGrasse Tyson on this, and he says that the same
Neil
code.
The greatest person on earth to talk about that stuff, but anyway, go on.
Well,
Yeah, well, he said the code. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, Neil deGrasse Tyson's just a science communicator kind of thing. He's got an astronomy background, but he's more into science communication than actually doing experiments. So I have to agree with Jason there.
Yeah, I mean, well, no, it was on his show though. So Neil deGrasse Tyson had Dr. Ben Gates, who was a physicist working in that field. So he's an expert in that field. And he says the same code that's in your browser is embedded in the universe. And he said the exact same code. In fact, I'll get that clip here in a second. But it shows that there's something more fundamental. Like, so space, time, and reality is not fundamental. So whatever information, how you guys, I mean, this is where I guess where the debate comes down to: what is information? How do we explain it? And I think that there's metaphysical properties to information that you can't ascribe to physicality, like code. Like code comes from minds, like intelligences. And I mean, it's a whole nother debate, I mean, in itself. But I'm just saying, like, there is evidence of this. But that's what I was saying.
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to read it. It seems like they're sort of saying in this paper that information is understood as semantic concept if and only if omega consists of n data for n greater or equal to 1. The data are well formed and the well formed data are meaningful. So that's their general definition kind of thing of under information theory. but I'm not sure how you would apply that to. So they're acknowledging in here the whole idea of information is a fuzzy concept. It basically sort of says that information is notorious and coming in many forms, having many meanings. It is associated with several explanations depending on the perspective adopted and the requirements and hysteria one has in mind. So it's sort of acknowledging what I said, that information, it depends how you're using it. Um, I'm just reading through it. Information is physical. Yeah, I kind of would agree at that.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's fine. If they, I'm not even like, because that their conclusion might be different with the author. I mean, just saying information, it is fundamental. But let me just show you another really quick one here that in the quick paper. So this is in AXRIV, Emergent Spacetime, Nathan. So here's another one that I would probably, you know, justify the idea that we're in a simulation, or even if you want to say like it's the so it's not a simulation, it would be like a holographic, the holographic theory, like we're living in a hologram. I think that's another popular theory, but nowhere, I mean, if you can show me a paper that says that space-time and matter are fundamental, I would like to see it, because it's been overturned. And then, I think there's actually, if you go back a couple of weeks ago or a couple of months ago, there was a Nobel Peace Prize winners that were showing that local space time is not even real. So if that's
Well,
true, yeah,
I don't think anybody's saying that space time and matter are fundamental, Praise. That's the problem. You're sort of saying, show me something that people don't believe, because we know that there's something fundamental to at least space, and that's sort of the quantum sort of building blocks of matter and things like that, and quantum fields. And with time, I believe that we're starting to investigate how tachyons play in the way that time
yeah,
behaves. So I don't think anyone believes that space time is fundamental. We know that it's not
okay.
fundamental.
Well, I guess where I'm getting at that, if what you call, or I'm not sure what you do, but I'm saying what other people that are naturalists and secularists, or how you want to, I don't know really, I don't know the different camps of physicalists out there, but they would say that matter is, fundamental, and we know that's just isn't true.
No
So if there's
naturalist
some,
is saying that. I'm sorry, mate. No naturalist is saying that matter is fundamental. I'm really sorry. They're just not. Even you get those diehard naturalists like Tom Jump and stuff. He won't say matter is fundamental. He'll say quantum fields are fundamental.
right. Well, wouldn't he say the quantum fields are physical though?
Yes, he would. But that doesn't mean quantum fields are matter.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's an interesting thing to go down to, but I mean, in fact, I wish I could just, if you give me a second, I could show that, the it's embedded in the universe itself is quantum information, and it's like browser code. And like, to me, that's pretty indicative of like a programmer. Like, we live in a program, and that's what we would expect, sort of like a virtual reality, like some type of artificial reality. You wouldn't expect that in some type of like physical reality that is objectively physical or natural. That's all we're trying to argue.
Yeah, but I do note that the paper that you provided, um, it gives some opposition as well. Like 4.3 in your paper goes into alternatives and opposition. Um, and there is some
Mhm.
opposition in the field. I don't think, and this is why they're pointing out the opposition, because I don't think this has been endorsed as sort of consensus by physicists. There's a lot of different ideas. Um, like as sort of Greg Yeager points out, A second insurmountable difficulty is that any information theoretic description of an object is by definition entirely different from the existent that it describes. So, the whole idea of a series of bits in electronics that has information in it, the series of bits is fundamentally different than what that information in it describes, and so there's a problem there, and here's the thing: I can't say, and to your credit, Praise, I can't say, hey, it definitely isn't a simulation. I can't say that because I don't know that. It could be absolutely a simulation. I haven't been presented with evidence to show that it's a simulation. And what does that mean for us if it is? Do you know what I mean? Like, what does that mean? Because even if this reality is a simulation, you would have to show that it is God or Jesus or whoever it is running the simulation. And I don't see that it has to be one of those entities doing so.
Well, I mean, this is where like we could just use like deduction, abduction, induction to see what would best, what would best implement or what would best run the simulation. And something that's mindless, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't think. It doesn't have any willpower to generate, different like the fine tuning, constructs of life and things like that. I don't see how that could be instantiated in reality. So I mean, it really would sway to an intelligent design mind or like an intelligent designer.
Right? Wouldn't
don't
it
think.
point towards a creator though, Mark?
Well,
Wouldn't it? Since it's created,
sure.
wouldn't it be okay?
Sure.
Sweet.
I mean, it
Right.
would point to a creator of some sort, but humans are
Okay.
creators. Aliens would be creators. Super intelligent, multi-dimensional aliens would still be creators. Unfortunately, sort of saying, "Hey, it was an intelligent creator," there is not one hypothesis for intelligent creator, unfortunately. So it still doesn't get you any closer to a god. And in some way, you'd have to explain why a god wants us to run through a simulation. It's sort of what's the point?
Right. Well, I would say yeah. I mean, if you're looking for like a absolute proof of God through like some type of induction or inferential type of methodology, I think that's sort of a category fallacy in its own because God is a universal being, is immaterial. So I think it's a metaphysical endeavor. I mean, I don't understand why atheists demand scientific evidence of a metaphysical being. It's like, would you look for like something that's plastic with a metal detector? Like that doesn't make any sense.
Well, the problem is,
Just
Praise,
hearing.
that we look for, and not necessarily a scientific investigation, but something that has a reliable methodology. And unfortunately, from all the religions that have gone on in the past, all the ones that you say isn't true, that just sort of making these abductive arguments does not actually get you to the truth, because a lot of people have done the abductive thing and come up with religions that you think are wrong. And, sort of wacky stuff and weird and wonderful new age stuff that we know is not correct, that we just know is patently false. So we have to rely on reliable methodologies, and sort of just assuming that it's a god and believing in that just is not reliable, because people have been doing that since the dawn of time, and more often than not they've been wrong according to you.
Well, I mean, this is what I'm trying to explain though. Like if we go through metaphysics, like ontology, like what is, if we understand like the ontological aspects of reality, then I think that supersedes what, like, because I think what you're arguing was more epistemology. How do we know things about reality? But it goes beyond that, though. It goes beyond epistemology.
But Praise, we don't have access to an ontology if simulation theory is real. You don't have access to that. All you have
Well,
access to is the simulation, which, if that's not ontologically true, then you don't have access to any ontology, and neither do I. And plus, even in the best case, just say this reality was real, I cannot just access the ontology of something. I agree that in metaphysics an ontology will exist, but you can't just access the ontological nature of things. You have to go through some sort of epistemology.
Right. I'm just saying, like, I mean, you're like in morals, like meta ethics. Okay, we might get into this actually in our debate, but
Yeah,
you have the is ought problem. Like you can tell
sure.
us what how things are and how what they you can describe reality, but you cannot
Sure.
tell us how it ought to be.
Correct.
And that's sort of like where I'm going with that.
Correct.
Well,
I don't
I
believe in
just
an
want to say,
objective morality, so I don't know why that's supposed to worry me at all.
I don't
Well,
want
I
to
mean,
disrupt.
yeah, go ahead, man.
Yep.
I don't want to disrupt from the flow, but I just want to say before I forget, hearing you say that
Hmm.
that this, what did you call it? This like a simulation. If we learned that we were in a simulation, it would point to a
Sure.
creator. Just hearing you say it would point to a creator just fills my heart with joy, Mark. I just wish I could hear you say it again.
Well, the problem then comes that, like, what is reality if this isn't reality, and who is running the simulation? So, it
Oh,
is a
just hearing you
question
say
that,
who is running the simulation just makes my
sure,
heart sing.
okay.
Like,
Well,
No,
the problem
a sim-
comes that we're not living in reality at that point. So I don't know why that would sort of make you happy that we're not in reality, that we're actually being deceived by something out there to think this is reality when in fact it is not. I don't know why that would make you happy, but hey, you do you, man.
well, the
Yeah.
who and the
yeah,
creator is, I don't know. I think it's a big deal, but I'll step
plus,
back.
plus a simulation would necessitate a creator. He's not saying
Why
that he
you gotta
believes in God.
ruin my high? Why do you gotta ruin my
Sorry,
high,
Yeah.
Wilder?
Well,
Of
that's
course
true,
it does.
but I think it would lend, if you could prove we did live in a simulation, an artificial reality, then that would lend credence to the idea that somebody started that simulation. Sure. The problem is that no one's even close to be able to do that, and no, we don't even know if we can do that. There's nothing that would lead us to believe that is the case. There is no strong evidence to show that is the case. It is just not something that we seem to be able to prove at this point. And at that point, when you're sort of saying, "Hey, we're living in a false reality," what do we do then? The question becomes, how do we get out of this false reality and into the real reality? Because the real reality is where I want to live, not some delusion
It's
of
called
reality that's
heaven.
been
Yeah.
thrust upon me from somewhere else.
Or
Right. And
He's just talking like a Christian now.
Well,
He's on
not
that's
his
really. I
right.
way.
don't think so.
You're getting closer, Mark. You're getting
Oh
there.
wow,
like
that's fine. If
the
look, if
Matrix.
Christianity is the truth, I want to know it. That's the truth, right? If that is the truth, I want to know it. I just don't think
Yeah.
it's the truth. I really don't. It just, I
So
think it's,
I think
well,
that a better deduction for you, Mark, would be: are we in a simulation, or did this happen by randomness?
I don't think
Would
it's
that
random. I think
it
Wildheart
still
did want to
wouldn't be?
say something as well. Oh, he's gone now. All right. Well, Wildheart, if you want to say something, I'm happy to give up the floor for you because I did interrupt you. I do apologize.
And I didn't mean to cut you off this time.
But yeah, if you could get back to me with, absolutely conclusive evidence that we are living in a simulation, P-Town, present it. Please present it. I
Oh, I
will
could
await
do
it.
that, Mark. I would
Okay,
love to
go
do
for it.
that.
Go for it.
Um, yeah, I mean, I could just jump into something. I just want to make sure David wants to say something, and then I want to respond to if this is a simulated reality. How do we know it would lend credence to God? Well, I would easily answer that with idealism. That everything is a mental construct. It comes from a mental source of reality. Everything has a mental ontology, and
I
that
don't
would
think that's
absolutely
true.
solidify that.
I don't think that's
Yeah.
true. Yeah, I don't think
I
that's
was
true.
just going to say,
yeah.
like,
David?
If this was a simulation, but the simulation was better to live in, would you still want to, like the Matrix?
Yeah,
living
I would.
outside of the simulation is, you would still want to.
Yes, I
live
would,
in the
Red Pill.
real.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I would like to
yeah,
live in a harsher reality than a comfortable delusion. Absolutely. Because nothing's
yeah,
real, and that's the whole point of it. That if this is a simulation, then there is no point to anything that you do. It is absolutely pointless
yeah,
because the simulation ends. They can start it up from the start. They can reset it halfway through. They can, and plus, if it's a simulation and I'm in a simulation, how do I even know that any of you are real? Like, I'm just maybe sitting in a
yeah,
simulation talking to a number of constructs that
Right.
are not actually real in reality, that I'm the only real person. And this is where solipsism kicks back in its nasty head, that you asking me and sort of saying all these things to me may be completely false. It may not be real at all. You may not be real. The whole idea
Well,
that you'd be happy at a simulation is baffling to me, because that means that I cannot trust that anything or anybody around me is actually real, and it may just be me talking to myself.
well, actually,
Well,
it's the
it means that
opposite.
you.
Well, I was gonna go ahead, man.
No, praise, you go.
Well, it's the opposite. See, this is what even the quantum mechanics, the observer, they're the ones that's objectively real. So all the quantum mechanics is saying, like, if you want to say if this is a simulation, is that everything or your environment isn't real. So what? You are the most real thing about reality. This is what God says, that we're image bearers of God. So it would actually be the opposite. But go ahead if you want to add there, Pete. I'm going to say something.
Yeah, go, Peter.
Well, I just want to bring it back to, you know, it in this hypothetical simulation, which you've agreed means that there's a creator. I mean, your whole point in this world, in this life, would be to learn more about what made you.
Well, sure, yeah,
I mean, could you?
absolutely.
Okay,
But
because we're on a roll.
you're sort of presupposing that thing is a god and not something else. And so
Well,
you're sort of begging the question that it is your concept of God that provided the simulation. And the only evidence you have for that is simulated evidence. So you cannot rely on any concept you have, because that concept is drawn from the very simulation that you are saying is not real. So you've basically just sunk your own religion there to say it's completely untrustworthy, and you have no reliable basis for it at all. If in fact this is a simulation, which I'm not convinced of in the slightest, because there's been no presentation of evidence for me.
but in this hypothetical situation, you would agree that this creator is real, though,
But
Which
Mark's not
creator?
getting it though.
I
right? So
am.
you would agree that this creator is real
What creator?
of the simulation?
How do you even start to find out attributes of the creator of the simulation?
But you would agree that at
No,
least
no,
the
no. Okay.
creator is
So,
real if we'd agreed
so,
on the creator,
well,
right?
I said most likely, yeah. So
Okay.
just say, for example, like if I say most likely, I would say, yeah, it's strong evidence towards there being a creator. So let's say there is, right? Let's say, okay, it's a simulation. We've got a creator. How do we go about finding attributes of that creator?
And we would go to metaethics, metaphysics, that he's logical, that he's a moral
Why?
being. There's teleology, that it leads to a purpose, a hope, that reality is leading to that. And
And
why? Well,
all.
because
Mhm.
morality itself, it's leading to a purpose.
Yeah, the problem is that all of this information you have just derived comes from something that isn't real, a simulation.
Well, you're missing but see, you're missing
No,
the
it
point,
does.
Mark. We're not. No, no,
Where
no.
do
Let me
you get
explain
this
why.
information? Where do you get the information about morality, about teleology? Where do you get the information about metaphysics from? Where did you acquire this information that you are currently leaning on?
Well, it's inherent in us. It's
It's
rooted within
inherent.
every human. Yeah.
Really? You think it's inherent in humans?
Yes, we all have a
So
conscience.
you were
If you want
born
to,
knowing about metaphysics, were you, Praise? You as a baby just suddenly knew about metaphysics without anybody telling you about it.
yes, right, wrongness, what's good, what's bad, and what we ought to do.
So as a
Yes.
child, you never did anything wrong. You automatically knew what was right, what was wrong. Never did anything
No,
wrong. Was absolutely perfect.
because I don't think you're okay when you're growing up as a baby. Your intellect is almost it's not yet your equilibrium or your what when you try if they're working with your morality and your intellect, they don't come together to when you have an age of accountability. So they don't come together until the age of accountability. So I think that's sort of a
look,
non-issue.
Praise, when you're born, you don't even have object permanence. It's something you've got to
I
learn.
know, but
That
that's
when
because you're
things leave your
yeah.
sight, they're not gone forever. You do not get born with a sense of metaphysics and all of these things you're trying to say, or we wouldn't have to teach people what metaphysics is. That is patently ridiculous. You're
But you're not
basically
even fully
saying,
conscious until like 8 years old or something. So it
I didn't know
develops,
about
Mark.
metaphysics at 8 years old.
Awareness.
You
I
didn't
know
know
I'm
about
not okay, but
metaphysics at eight
I'm not
years
even
old.
okay. So when you mean metaphysics, are you talking about what's right and wrong we ought to do,
No,
right? Like, are you
I'm talking
saying
about
that?
metaphysical things,
Well, that's
things
what I'm
that are
talking about. I'm not
metaphysical.
even talking about the concept or the philosophical category of metaphysics. I'm talking about what's involved in metaphysics, which is understanding of what's right and wrong, what we ought to do. That is inherent in every human
That's
being.
morality, not metaphysics.
That or meta ethics. I mean, yeah. Well, it does
Well,
fall
meta
under meta
ethics.
ethics. Yes.
I don't think we have inherent meta ethics either. I think that isn't something that's inherent either. That's something that we learn mostly from society, which is why the children of a
No, we don't
society
learn
will
that. No.
repeat the same meta ethics of their
Well, I
parents.
mean that's right, but I mean that's just a whole nother, rabbit hole to go down. But
Okay, so
what my point
let's look
is,
at teleology and these philosophical concepts that you say we have inherently. You are leaning on concepts that you have acquired by learning them in the presumed this simulation that we're saying.
no, they're
So,
a priori. Yeah.
well, no, they're not. They're yeah, but I mean, look, you're still acquiring them from learning them in the simulation, so they cannot be relied on at all to get you to any kind of answer if this is a
We
simulation. Because
don't learn that, Mark. I mean, when you're a kid, you're a baby, sure, because you're developing your brain and
sure,
consciousness. It's not even fully your equilibrium is not even fully calibrated. Then, like until that happens, then you know what's right and wrong. You do.
well, I'm not even talking about what's right and wrong. I'm talking about how you investigate a creator of the simulation by information that you've
I
gathered from the
agree.
simulation.
But that goes to the teleology. Do you see how morals go to? There's a purpose and end to it. Like there's a direction it's going, and that is to make reality a better place for every human
No.
being. This is what God intended.
Yeah, I don't see that as being a function of God. I think that's something that humans do because we are human. I think that
Right.
humans want life and the world to be better because it's better for us and everybody around us. So there's a number of mechanisms that work together to ensure that we work towards that. But not every human does. That's the thing.
Right.
There was a book written about the banality of evil, that they studied this guy who worked in sort of gas chambers and he was just doing his job. There was nothing insane about him, nothing irrational about him, nothing any kind. He was an ordinary working guy who just did his job every day. And tons of people do the same. They do horrible harm just doing their jobs. All they do is say, hey, I just go to work. And it's not this
Yeah.
whole thing of they intrinsically know what's immoral or moral, immoral or moral. They don't know that intrinsically. It is something that we have to talk about and analyze and in some way there is moral intuitions, sure, but they're not reliable, and that is shown by the number of apparently sane and normal people that can do great harm through what they do.
Well, no, that's like I would completely disagree. That I mean, we've even done so. Analytical philosophers have done actually studies on this and done plenty of where they poll people and they all have an intrinsic awareness of what's right and wrong, and they say, well, when did this happen? And they all polled, like the majority is that it was young when they learned this. I mean, your young child age, they all agree to that. So we even have
Sure.
empirical analyses that show us that it's inherent. Morality is inherent. But so I guess where I'm going though is morality leads. It's going somewhere. It's aiding to a better culture, a better reality for humans. So that's called teleology. But my
Well,
point with the so go
no,
ahead.
that look, it may be leading someone better, but you haven't established that's because of some sort of um, divine guidepost that said that's where it's trying to go. You haven't established that, you've just asserted it. And that isn't good enough. You've got to show that that is actually the case, because I can make the case that, hey, humans are trying to do the best for humans because of the subjective experience of just being human. We want the best for ourselves.
Right, but that just falls into relativism and
Sure.
it dissolves away.
Well, that's a happy
But
experience because I'm a moral relativist, or a meta ethical relativist, I should say. But yeah,
right,
I
but
don't think in objective morals. I think it is relative, so that makes sense.
yeah, I mean, I guess your point though, you're saying that there's some, mad people out there that do bad things,
I didn't say mad.
but that's the
I
minority
said
though.
sane.
Like,
I
or
said
sane,
sane.
or like, what do you mean saying that is by definition insane? Like, what do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, there's nothing wrong with them as far as um, sort of having distorted thoughts or some kind of mental illness of being wrong with them. They are rational and reasonable people who happen to do these harmful things, um, even though morality and inbuilt morality should say that they shouldn't.
Are you saying people can't defy their conscience? I mean, come on, Mark. That's of course people do that every
Sure, they
day. They
can.
defy their. I shouldn't drink today. Whoops, I did. I drank. I drank more than I should. I was mean to this guy. Maybe I should have been nicer. The conscience is always working and affecting human beings, whether they
Sure.
deaden their conscience or whether they harden their conscience. That's up to them, though.
No, I don't think that's the case. I think that it is a case of sort of learnt morals, because people can go to work and do things that they will know people cause people harm, and they don't have a twinge of conscience about it. Some of the biggest CEOs, like of sort of the what's that chemical company Monsanto and stuff like that, they know that they're causing harm, but they don't miss a night worth of sleep, and they see it as their moral duty to make money for their shareholders. They don't see
Yes.
it as a moral duty to do something else. So their conscience
Well, I
doesn't
mean,
affect them.
Mark, you're kind of you're refuting yourself here
How
because you
so?
don't go to a laboratory to learn morality. No one like goes like the
When did I mention
scientific
a
method and
laboratory?
well, you're saying like it's something that they discover, or if it's like it's almost like you're saying it's empirical or scientific. And no, like, and that's why even like meta ethics is in a completely different category than science. They're not in the same category.
No, I'm saying that we observe people who are perfectly rational and reasonable do things that don't affect their conscience, because it is in alignment with their meta ethical standards, and they're not meta ethical standards I would share, but it is in alignment with theirs, and that directly rebukes and rebuts completely your idea that somehow this morality has been instilled to them, because if it was, they should experience the same crisis of conscience as everybody else, but they don't.
Wait, that makes no sense. So are you saying
How?
because that they don't choose always to do good and the right thing, therefore morality doesn't exist?
No, they're thinking
No,
they're doing the right thing.
they
They're
it has
sure they're
to be
doing the right
learned.
thing.
Actually, Mark does still. I mean, there is this post where you have to get through with praise. By the way, hello. You see, these things have to be learned. You can't just say. I mean, it's kind of like you're presupposing or assuming that. I mean, I believe that that morality is from the divine, as opposed to the Christian worldview that I hold. But the unbeliever will not see it that way. We don't have this. I mean, in incidences, sure, they could do things that would align with our set of rules or morals, which tries to achieve a universal ought and ought nots, but they won't see it that way. You have to tackle on their epistemology. I mean, put it this way: you gotta make sure that Mark learns this. Otherwise, there is no way to compromise his meta-ethical relativism.
Well, I'm saying like
Am I just making a caricature there or something, or am I spot on? I don't know.
Well, I would disagree because humans don't learn morality by monkey see, monkey do. I think that's ridiculous.
No, that was never the case. I mean, you're right. I mean, we don't
Nobody ever
learn
claimed that.
morality monkey see, monkey do because we're entirely different from them. But the point is, this has to be learned.
Maybe we should leave this for the debate, Praise, because we will be debating this in the future. So maybe
I was kind of infringing upon some of my own arguments I was going to do, so I better be careful.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
I'll leave it there.
No, I thought this was an interesting discussion. I mean,
but we're going to debate it very soon. So I'll leave Praise because he's sort of.
Mr.
I think I did have an email I had to
early
respond
March,
to, and I apologize.
I think.
Yeah, early March sometime.
Look forward
so
to it. Yeah, look
very,
forward to
very
it.
close.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to get more in depth and stuff. I thought we had a little taste of it, though. I think that's good. I think we kind of got a little gist of each other's viewpoints. So I appreciate that, Mark.
Yeah,
I'm surprised that none of you were killing each other like some clubhouse rooms that I've seen.
Oh, look, everyone knows Clubhouse is just an out and out fight. I usually don't go on there because it is just so chaotic. But
I heard it's got so toxic to the point where if you're not one of us, you're against us, kind of thing. And I'm like, it gives you the message where you're like, oops, wrong room. I thought this was the males' room. Sorry, I was in the females' room after all. Hang on, let me excuse myself. That's Clubhouse nowadays.
Oliver just been saying she's been eating cheese and pickles, so we all know what that does.
Gosh, I miss eating pickles. I'm gonna open a jar of pickles.
I do like pickles, especially dill pickles.
Dude, wrong one. Wrong one.
Do you like the relish? Do you like them relished or just the regular?
No, I just like pickles. Chop them up, put them in sandwiches, put them in wraps, put them in burgers and stuff.
Delicious.
Yeah,
delicious.
Absolutely.
Anyway, is good as long as it's pickles.
All right, man. Well, I'm going to take off. Thank you so much, Praise. That was a blast. But we'll get into the debate and then we can present some real solid arguments. And I think that's on Standing for Truth coming up.
See you, Mark. God bless you, mate.
Yeah, Jason. Good to see you too, mate. Take care of yourself. Thanks everybody, and it'll be. I'll see you around soon.
Will do, more. Take care, man. It was a lot of fun. Step on. I don't want to bulldoze people. So I think there's a lot of evidence for a simulation, but I'll put it out there. And I think if we were living in a simulation, I think that would obviously give credence to the biblical God. And so we need some other people giving arguments out there, but